I'm John Russell, Senior Editor at HPCwire, and with me today is Bill Mannel of Hewlett Packard Enterprise. We're going to talk about HPC generally and HPE's view of the evolving advanced computing landscape. Bill, you may know, is a longtime member of the HPC community. He joined HPE in 2014 and is currently the Vice President and General Manager for High Performance Computing. Before that, Bill was a senior exec at SGI, and if I'm not wrong, I think you were at NASA for a while as well, Bill. You can fill in, where I missed things. I've jotted down a few questions, and really just meant to be an informal conversation around what's happening in the HPC landscape and HPE's view of that. So welcome, first of all, Bill. I haven't seen you for a while. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you as well, John.
Maybe in November we'll get to see each other in person in St. Louis. We'll see.
I certainly hope so.
So I thought we would start with some questions on Exascale. I mean, HPE, along with Cray, really has been such a winner in that space. It's so important overall moving forward. The three systems, Aurora, Frontier, and El Capitan, have different microprocessor GPU combinations, none of which have really been used before at this scale. So a huge technology challenge with new interconnect and I believe storage systems as well. Give us a sense of how that's going. That's an enormous project.
Sure, and so things are going well from that perspective. There's three systems we're working on. You mentioned Frontier and El Capitan. There's also Aurora, which we're partners with Intel, and they're all based out of the same Cray EX infrastructure. And so, fortunately, we already have that system going out in the field now. It's being installed in a number of systems, and some have already been up in production, for example. So that's certainly a first good step there. And that actually has the first revision of our slingshot interconnect in it as well. So we're also working on that at obviously less scale, but working to scale that up. So we'll be ready when Frontier starts getting put together, which will be in the latter part of this year. Again, working on the various ingredients and actually debuting those already at customer sites. So I think we're making good progress. And obviously AMD is a key partner of ours there for both the Frontier and El Capitan systems, and they're certainly working hard on their upcoming technology, their MI200. And then as well, Intel is very busy on their side of the equation. We've actually recently shipped them a Cray EX rack so they can start developing the blades that will go in there for Aurora. So a lot of work, across a number of different companies, and certainly impressed with the amount of technical know-how and collaboration that we're seeing.
Does it look right now that things are sort of going to meet their deadlines? And there was some shuffling early on, but it looks like things have settled down, so those systems will come online as predicted. I guess it's 21 and then 22 and 23, kind of a blurry zone there.
Yeah, kind of one after the other from that standpoint. So we're certainly tracking mostly on schedule from certainly a year basis, and things continue to march forward as I mentioned.
So these systems all embrace heterogeneous architectures and different kinds of technology that are really enabling it. Enabling the scale. How will those technologies, how will these exascale advanced technologies filter down and out? I mean, what's the process there? And are there specific technologies you think will be very useful? And, what's the route? How will HPE foster that to happen?
Yeah, certainly. And that's always been a challenge in the past of taking what's the number one system or number two system and actually having that technology more broadly available across all HPC customers. And certainly, if you look at a variety of the different ingredients that we're bringing in, Slingshot and the MI200 GPU from AMD, these are things which we are planning to put obviously in a solution perspective into our Apollo line, which is our line that basically starts at the bottom and comes up to the bottom of where Cray EX is. So we'll see more of that technology coming down. Cray programming environment is just a great value add. A lot of people really enjoy that, and that's going to be available across the Apollo line as well, and as well as the ProLiant line that is part of our enterprise business, so in a more standard type of format. So we're very excited about how we can take that technology. We didn't want to make it just about a handful of big systems. We wanted to be able to enable the world to be more successful for both HPC and AI.
Just a real quick follow-up. So I'm guessing you're working pretty closely with the ECP folks on the software stack and all those elements as well. Is that true? Is that kind of what's going on too?
Yeah, certainly. They've done some great work there. And another place where I think we've learned from the past to make sure there's a wealth of applications that are coming out that will enable more of the market, versus a handful of systems. So I certainly, my hat's off to the DOE to fund not only software but also infrastructure and technology to run the software and the applications out there.
Looking at the efforts that are going on in Exascale, but across the portfolio, what are you thinking about in terms, when you think of HPE's differentiation, what is that? What does that mean to you?
Well, certainly, it comes in a lot of different areas as you move up through the stack. And all of this was significantly enhanced by both our acquisitions of Cray and SGI before that. So we have software assets. I already mentioned Cray programming environment. There's Cray operating system as well, which a lot of customers use with a lot of success. We also have, as an example, storage software coming in through Cluster Store. So that was part of the Cray acquisition as well. And then you had DMF, the data management framework that came in from SGI. So we've got a complete suite of both file system technology as well as data management technology that we're bringing in. Then as we move up the stack, we've got all kinds of server designs. So we've got a server for just about every workload if you look across our whole portfolio at HPE. And then finally, Point Next, which is our customer support organization, is a worldwide first-class customer support organization with a lot of talent. And so we've integrated talent from both SGI and Cray from an installation and a professional services standpoint, so we can implement solutions that are specific to customers. And of course, in the back end, we've got just a fantastic engineering team supporting all those products, and also in particular, we have an applications engineering and performance team that is world class. I think it's probably bigger than a lot of other companies have combined from that standpoint, that focuses on performance as well as working with application vendors to get the best from their applications on our customer systems.
We've talked a bit about some of these larger systems, and HPE, I think sometimes the Cray acquisition helped vault right into the top 10 of the top 500, but HPE has long been a player, a dominant player in terms of number of systems in the overall 500 and throughout sort of the enterprise landscape. Maybe spend a moment on some of the smaller systems and the smaller offerings.
Yeah, certainly. And I've been here almost 7 years at HPE, and when I came here, we did most of our HPC on our enterprise system, so our C-class blades and our ProLiant rack products. And so, as I mentioned previously, we've got this very wide portfolio, and so we can address a lot of different types of customer needs and form factors that are specific for their use. And so this allows us to craft solutions. We have some very talented solution architects and centers of excellence per geo that allow us to craft the right solution for customers, whether you have a smaller cluster all the way up to pre-exascale or exascale type of system.
So the full portfolio.
That's correct. Yes.
We have to we can't not talk about AI, as it sort of pervades everything there is in computing these days. It's this massive buzzword, and maybe rightfully so. I mean, given the data intensive nature of computing today and the things you can do with AI. So I thought you could perhaps talk for a second about AI technologies and their adoption, and maybe what's sort of your sense of how they'll affect HPC generally and HPE customers specifically.
Yeah, certainly, and you're right. AI is the buzzword today, and believe it or not, I won't tell you how old I am, but my senior project when I got my bachelor's in engineering was on an expert system, which is what we called AI back in those days, expert system for failure analysis. Believe it or not, fortunately, because the processing capability of our systems today has advanced so much, we can really do a surprising number of problem solving with AI. It's across the industry. And, it comes from, banks, for example, and a lot of commercial customers use natural language processing a lot. If you've interfaced on the phone recently, you see that a lot. Video analytics for safety and security is used very widely. And also predictive maintenance in a lot of manufacturing is being done a lot. And with the benefits of AI and the performance you can get, you can really check every part. Before, historically, you'd have someone on a production line grab a part and take a look at it and say, is it okay? As 15 went by. Now you can take a picture of every one of them and locate every one of them that passed the spec. That means you can stop the product line if it's out very quickly. You can also take those ones off before they get shipped out to a customer, and then you have a customer satisfaction issue and expense. So it's very impactful from that standpoint. Now we're starting to see AI and HPC working together, where traditional HPC was more simulation and modeling oriented. We try to simulate the actual world, and now with AI we can use it via so many sensors we have out there to actually test our models and actually look at things in a different way. And all that, what all that tells us is we get more information around the particular object or physical phenomenon that we're trying to track, and all that's good news. It means we're more accurate. We can save more money, build better products, bring them to market faster. These are all great results of AI, merged with HPC. I was a person in aircraft development and test, and now we have the ability to be gathering data daily on any of our aircraft designs and just be able to understand what's really happening when the plane's in flight and build that into our either updates or our future designs or maybe our technical specs and maintenance specs as we go forward. So tremendous impact, and we'll see more and more of that as we go forward as well.
I mean, it is astounding. I'm familiar with some of the AI development or the machine learning, deep learning developments at the labs, and Rick Stevens and I have talked quite a bit about the efforts there at Argonne, and his role, part of his role, is to develop tools which have specific applications now, some of them in cancer, but that will be broadly applicable across all of DOE's missions. And they're using traditional simulation and modeling and trying to infuse AI. So in a sense, these are, we've heard the question: is AI going to replace traditional simulation and modeling? And I'm curious to get what your answer is, because the answer that we hear is, look, first principle physics and modeling is not going away, but the way in which we use AI to inform those kinds of things is very powerful. What's your sense there?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it'll make our models and the simulations much more accurate. We can fine tune them and much faster than we've been able to do in the past. We will spend fewer wasted cycles, looking at things that are not valuable to us or maybe never converge. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. One thing, and I came from flight test, so one thing I always tell people when they say, yeah, we won't need simulation anymore, and I'm like, well, okay, so you want to fly that plane to the limit that it breaks, and you don't want an air crew and a bunch of passengers in it. You want to simulate that part, right? And then get the best simulation you can. And there's a lot of things out there that are you might see the phenomenon once in 1,000 years, or you're going to wait 1,000 years to see the phenomenon. So there's a lot of things like that, and that will continue to make modeling and simulation an important part of HPC, and actually a growing part, with AI alongside, making it even more valuable.
One of the issues we have heard repeatedly, I'd like to say less so, but I'm not sure that's true, in the last year, is the barriers to entry, that people have trouble, that most of these projects, AI projects implemented in less sophisticated environments have trouble, and that even at the high end, expectations are not necessarily met. So barrier to entry, in essence, and barrier to use, what's your sense about what they are, and how does HPE contribute to maybe lowering those barriers?
Yeah, certainly, and we actually look at some data in this regard and talk to some people that gather some data on this. And I would say that, of all the customers out there, like 1 or 2% are really good at AI. And if you pick up your phone, some of them already. So and then there's some that are probably, we'd say about 10 to 20% that are in production. So they're seeing actual benefits coming back. May not be as much as they thought, but they're definitely getting benefits. Then there's about another 10% that are kind of just getting started and not really sure, how to start. And then you've got like 50 or 60% that, haven't really started, but probably, if they're a CIO at a company, the CEO is saying, well, what's your AI plan? It was back when everybody had the big data plan, you remember, a few years ago. So they're all being asked what's their AI plan. So they're kind of nervous. What do I do? And so we have for the people that are really experts, they kind of know what they're doing. So we sell them a lot of infrastructure, software, and hardware, and these sorts of things. The next level over, we assist. So I mentioned our professional services group. They actually assist customers and help them kind of, assess what they're trying to get to. A moderate approach. A lot of times when you don't have a successful project, maybe you were a little bit too ambitious to begin with, or just didn't really get complete alignment across the company, or understand how long it was going to take, or how much money it was going to take. And so they help do that. They'll do assessments and help people get started and make recommendations. And then certainly from the next group over, who have maybe started and not gotten as far as they'd like to, we'll certainly jump in with our professional services and our solutions as well. We have some solutions we do with partners, such as natural language processing and video analytics. We've got some ISVs we work very closely with there. And then certainly the folks that haven't started with, we're having conversations with them. We're giving them advice wherever we can, and some of our solution architects in the field are trying to get them started, and using some of the again, we're a big company, so we have a lot of exposure to a lot of customers who have started, been successful, maybe missed, and we can work with the customers that are more challenged, and give them pointers to how to get started. Even other customers like that are in their industry that can help them get going on it as well. So we have a lot to offer just across the broad company.
So you can do both a little bit of hand holding and matchmaking where appropriate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we have a number of different venues that we set up. Actually, formally, we have a council of advisors that we do, as well as a CIO summit, where we get a bunch of CIOs together, and that allows them to not only talk with us, but also talk with their peers across the business.
An area that HPCwire perhaps doesn't look at as much as we should is this area of infrastructure as a service, or services generally, where you're sort of looking at reducing the cost of deployment and of computing generally. And I know that HPE has done pretty well with its GreenLake space, and that's sort of a kind of a broad offering. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, and also, when is that kind of an offering going to be suitable for HPC, or is it already?
Yeah, so GreenLake has been a great success for us across our broad business. So a lot of customers use that to, give them a flexible spending type arrangement. It's a lot like a lease, but at the same time, we now launched an interface, if you will, a portal called GreenLake Central, which allows customers to actually measure their usage and even be able to order up new hardware. And in some cases, they just ask us to manage it for them. So we if you will, kind of parachute in through GreenLake Central and actually manage the cluster on their behalf if they don't quite have the skills to get going on that. So it's been a great offer, huge growth rate for us. I think just a huge number of customers over this past year have adopted that. Now on the HPC side, back in December, we did announce GreenLake for HPC. And so that was an announcement. And now in another, let's say month, probably the July timeframe, we'll have that available for customers. Now it starts out with 3 t-shirt sizes. So it's the small, medium, and large. And they're based on building blocks that we have out of our Apollo portfolio. And so depending upon how much compute you need, and we provide our customers and our sales teams and channel partners with some information to help size that with customers, and they can order, we can drop it into their data center, into one of our data centers, or even into a colo site, very quickly, because it's more or less a pre-configured type offering, and then we can manage it, they can manage it however they want to manage it from that standpoint. So we're very excited about that and expect that to really take off.
I'd like to not exactly switch gears, but drill down a bit. Basically, we've talked about Exascale and the fact that it's heterogeneous computing. And we talked about AI, which really makes use of some of these accelerators. And the world has changed relative to processors recently. We had this enormous processor diversity. So I have kind of 3 questions. Let me look at my list here and take a stab at it, to the extent you can. So when I say processors, it's CPUs, it's GPUs, it's FPGAs, it's all these new specialized AI devices. What's your sense of how the processor landscape will evolve? So that's 1. 2, how does HPE assess that landscape and choice? I mean, I'm sure you're looking at that stuff all the time. How do you do that? And should we expect more choices within HPE systems? I'm thinking, ARM is now a pretty substantial player, and I know HPE has been in the ARM world for a long time. But should we also expect some of these other specialty AI chips or systems even to be sold in concert with HPE? So 3 questions. What's your sense of the landscape? How do you assess those choices? And what about HP offerings itself?
Yeah, so it's really exciting right now. We call it the Cambrian Explosion. This is where, when in the dawn of time, it was a big explosion of different life forms that came on board. And so that's where we are right now. There's various different flavors of microprocessors. You mentioned ARM, and obviously x86 is out there. You've got a variety of different GPUs that are getting more and more interesting and powerful. FPGAs are out there, and also a lot of more custom type chips that can do AI type of work. So Cerebrus or Cerebrus, however you want to pronounce it, is a solution that we actually implemented in a number of customers. Pittsburgh Supercomputing is a great example on that one. In general, it's exciting as we go forward. And in some cases, these processors will be very tightly integrated, so we'll make a blade out of them. In other places, maybe they'll be pulled together as a PCI card. And in other cases, they may be part of an independent solution that we pull together in an overall solution to a customer. So that's similar to what we've done at Pittsburgh. And then that offers a variety of different types of compute paradigms to customers. And depending upon their workload, they can get some pretty phenomenal improvements in performance and accuracy and those sorts of things off of some of these technologies. We actually have, and to your second question, how do we evaluate? There's we have Hewlett Packard Labs, which is an important part of Hewlett Packard. They're looking, where's our normal business unit is building things for the next 1 to 3 years. They're looking out 3, 5, 7, 10, 20 years out. And so they've been doing a big analysis of all the different types of offerings out there, and figuring out which ones might be best. In some cases we might actually take some amount of investment stake in one of those. In others, they advise the global business unit in terms of, yeah, I think you guys should look at this. This is really interesting. And so they have a regular engagement in that, and it's been very helpful as we go forward. And then at the same time, working back and forth with customers has been interesting as well. So as I said, very interesting area, and certainly a place that we'll see more of this going forward, I believe, because there's with all the data out there, it's really about data and getting the value out of it that we can. And there's various notes that said there's so much data, but we only get a value out of a very small portion of it. So we got a lot of work to do. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
But you think it's going to continue to be a dynamic place where the offerings keep advancing and changing, and so you have to sort of keep abreast of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the challenge, and this is something we're looking at addressing, is how can you integrate quickly a new accelerator, a new processor, whatever that looks like, because a lot of times, customers are faced with a porting issue. We've got to work on drivers and that period of time from the accelerator is ready and someone's doing productive work tends to be kind of long, and that makes it hard for a startup to show success quickly. And so we're trying to figure out how to make that easier so that you can easily link your latest accelerator into something like our Crate programming environment, so customers can enjoy that. That's a TBD, no dates or any commitments around that, but something we feel like we want to solve as we go forward.
Just for a moment, leaving the poor unnoticed processor world aside, because it gets all the glory, right? What other technologies are you looking at? I mean, there's so much going on elsewhere, whether it's memory or interconnect, et cetera. What are the things that are on your radar that you're tracking closely and expect maybe nearer term to work their way into products?
Yeah, certainly. We're obviously interested in high bandwidth memory. So we've had there's been some past success in that. So with the Knights processor line from Intel, we've had a number of customers that really got sort of phenomenal results on that after some work in making that successful. So I think we'll see more of that going forward. You mentioned ARM earlier. That's another thing that some very interesting designs coming out, and in particular, even a little bit more interesting for HPC as we go forward. So that's certainly an area that we're looking at. And I would say that as I mentioned previously, I think the software ecosystem is an area that it probably needs to help us more. We were talking previously about, there's all these people out here that want to do AI and they're not being successful. Well, part of that is our fault, right? not helping them be successful and more quickly, so they achieve their ROI more quickly. So I think software, needs to be easier to use. And certainly, I've got a 19-year-old who's studying computer science right now. So I look at what he's doing versus what I did, and he's using Jupyter notebooks and Python, Python. And so, that's, things like that make programming, much more straightforward for all of us will really help as we go forward. So those are interesting things that we're trying to track and influence wherever we can.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, really so much of the AI software world came from the enterprise world to start with, many of them being the cloud providers. And now the academic and HPC world is suddenly very interested, and likewise could have a creative burst, adding to that. So we're also watching, say, okay, what are the new things in the software stack area that, around AI, and where do they come from? Because like I mentioned Rick Stevens earlier, and that's really a big part of his job. And he's just one of many, in DOE who are trying to do that. I wanted to not miss a chance to ask you about the impact of HPC and COVID-19, the pandemic, in developing not just therapeutics, but everything from, the epidemiology, logistics. I mean, to me, not just HPC, but the world of science plus HPC really showed its strength in this pandemic in a way that hadn't happened before. So I wanted to ask you, what did we learn from this pandemic? And I was thinking primarily about mobilization of resources, collaboration across normally rival lines, and are there any specific technologies? Because, when I look at this terrible year, I just assume forget about it on the one hand. On the other hand, we got it done, collaboratively, many diverse interests. What's your take?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it was a place where by working together, across lines between, government, industry, across competitors, I thought we put a really good face forward and did a lot of really good work. And, it's really phenomenal that we were able to get where we are. How many people, didn't think that this was going to be like a long, multiple year type of thing. And we seem to be, knock on wood, doing better, as we look at it. And I'm proud of the fact that HPC actually helped a lot. We sequenced the virus very quickly. We use things like cryo-EM, which is something a lot of our customers use to really understand what the virus looked like and how we could intersect that, and both from a vaccine and a therapeutic perspective. So certainly from my standpoint, it really, I think, very much in the public mind, I think it solidified the value of high performance computing and technology with them. And at the same time, even how we're interacting today is something that you go back 5 years ago, people said, well, yeah, everybody has to be in the office to ever be effective, right? But hey, we've been pretty darn effective over the last 18 months or so. Working from home, it's not ideal, but it could definitely be done for a lot of us. That has allowed, as a company, our company will not be the same complexion as it was before the virus. We will probably have many more people that are what we call edge people than we've had before. This opens up the world, if you will. You don't have to be in Houston, Texas, where the new headquarters is going to be for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. You don't have to be in Houston to really contribute to the company. And what that allows us to do is really find talent worldwide and contributors worldwide. And so I think that's phenomenal. I think that's really a significant, if you will, collateral result of the pandemic as well. And I certainly see that as something that will be with us for a long time, and a very valuable thing. It does help us balance work and life and those sorts of things, to the extent that it was a little hard before. And I spent a lot less time commuting, by the way. So my insurance company can't believe how few miles I put on my car right now. But that's all good, right? Not a lot of value for any of us sitting in traffic, right? So I think we've had a big impact on the world from that perspective.
So maybe one more question, and hopefully we will not have hit our time limits, but so ISC21 is here, just about, and what are you looking at there that's interesting? I follow the quantum area for us a bit, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what's happening there. What's on your agenda for ISC this year?
Well, certainly, and I was looking through the agenda the other day, and certainly there's a lot of good stuff around Exascale. So we're obviously very happy to hear about that. We talked about how do we make Exascale more pervasive and more impactful. So I'm happy about that. I also I'm an old FPGA guy, believe it or not. So I launched a FPGA product, the SGI, back in the early 2000s, and very interested to see FPGAs front and center of the agenda as well. So to your point around alternate processing and these sorts of things, I think there's a lot there too as we go forward. So looking forward to seeing a lot of the events virtually, and maybe a year from now we'll be back to Frankfurt and be able to meet and interact like we have in the past.
So again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely, John. It was nice to talk with you again.
Nice talking with you.